Welcome to the Explainer. All right, we are jumping straight into the action today with the ultimate underdog story, a tale of hidden power, brutal betrayal, and a literal fiery rebirth. We're breaking down the incredible journey of Ryan Zegart. But you know what? To really understand who this kid is, we're not starting at the beginning. We're dropping right into the middle of a totally brutal academy test. Picture this. 160 trainees have shown up, and watching closely from the sidelines is the family patriarch, just waiting for one specific kid to appear.
So, the elf archmage instructor stands up and drops a harsh truth on them. Only a quarter of these kids are going to make it through. The test itself? Sounds simple. Just break through his crushing magical aura and touch him. But here's the catch. If they use their own mana, even for a split second, instant fail. First up is the silver-haired prodigy, the daughter of a swordmaster with 4 years of intense training already under her belt. The aura hits her and she grits her teeth through immense pain, pushes through the invisible storm and grabs his hand. Pass. Next is Dorian. Now bro is literally shaking before he even stands up. He drops to one knee the second the aura hits him, stomach totally empty, boxers full of, well, you know. But somehow, he drags himself forward for agonizing minutes, finally touches the instructor and immediately throws up. Still, it's a pass. Then we've got Burn, the main family heir who was mocking everyone earlier. The elf releases his aura, and Burn gets slammed right down to one knee, humbled real fast. Crawling like a cockroach, he remembers his strict father, forces himself up, and grabs the instructor. Another pass. And then, the instructor calls the name the patriarch has been waiting for. Ryan Zegart. This is the kid the whole family came to laugh at, the so-called worthless, useless disgrace, the outcast that doctors confidently said wouldn't even live to see 20. The instructor smirks, says he won't go easy, and cranks the aura pressure so unbelievably high that the parents in the audience literally feel like the ceiling is collapsing on them. Everybody else had an easier test, so why is Ryan getting the full blast? Well, our boy doesn't even raise his hands. He just looks at the instructor and asks, "Is this really the test?" He takes one step, then another. The entire room goes dead silent. He casually walks up, pokes the instructor right in the stomach, and says, "I passed, right?"
The grandfather watching from the throne, everyone in the grandstands, even his own mother, they are all completely, utterly confused. I mean, how is this happening? Rayon passing a full-power aura test shouldn't be physically possible. How does a frail, sickly kid diagnosed to die before his 20th birthday simply brush off a room-crushing aura that just humbled the absolute elite? Well, to figure that out, we have to rewind a bit.
Which brings us to Section 1, the Sword of Justice and a very public failure. Okay, so a few years before this whole academy test, every single Zegart child had to attend this aura awakening ceremony. The idea is they place their hand on the Sword of Justice to get their innate mana talent measured. The first kid touches it, a huge burst of wind explodes out, the nobles clap. Second kid goes up, gets the same level of praise. Then, it's our boy Ryan's turn. And honestly, the entire hall is already laughing. They literally came to this event specifically to watch the outcast son fail. He steps up, places his hand on the sword, and for a split second, there's a vision inside his mind. He sees the first head of the Zegart family wiping out an entire battlefield of monsters in one single strike, and a flash of golden flame ignites in his heart. But on the outside, what the nobles see? Absolutely nothing. Just a faint, pathetic white glow. Literally the lowest possible result. The nobles absolutely lose it. They burst out laughing, publicly branding him a total disgrace. Call him colorless, they say. Call him useless. Let's move on to Section 2, the Golden Flame's Secret and the Hidden Truth. So, Ryan walks out, the ceremony ends, and the Great Hall empties out. Only Ryan's grandfather and his butler are left behind, quietly muttering about how the boy really is a lost cause. And then, the exact second the heavy doors click shut, the Sword of Justice absolutely erupts. We're talking thick, blinding golden mana and fierce golden flames pouring out of the blade. The patriarch literally drops his cup in purest shock. Because this wasn't just a high score. This was the aura of the very first head of the Zegart family, a legendary, mythical power that has appeared exactly once in the entire history of their bloodline.
So the kid everyone was just laughing at? He didn't fail at all. The magic sword intentionally lied during the ceremony. It literally waited for the doors to close so nobody else would see the real truth. Think about it. If anyone in that room full of treacherous, scheming nobles had seen his ultimate talent, Rayon would have had an immediate, massive target painted on his back. The sword was actually protecting him.
But guys, that leaves us with an even bigger question, right? Why on earth does a sickly nobody, a cast-aside child, secretly harbor the greatest, strongest bloodline talent in family history? Well, the answer lies in a past that he hides from absolutely everyone.
Let's unpack that in Section 3,
life as a shadow, a past forged in blood.
We're peeling back the deepest layer of the story here. Rayon isn't just some uniquely talented kid. No way! In his previous life, he was the top operative of a group called the Shadows. This was the elite personal assassin squad of King Darius, one of the 6 kings and the legendary sword saint that literally everyone on the continent bows down to. The Shadows are terrifying. They kidnap children when they're super young, brainwash them completely, raise them in total darkness, and pump them out as disposable weapons. They have zero free will, no feelings, no thoughts of their own. And Rayon? He was the absolute best killer they ever produced.
But then, one random day, by pure accident, everything changes. Rayon stumbles upon this long-lost breathing technique called the Ring of Fire. It's a legendary art that hadn't been seen in centuries, known for drastically raising a person's endurance, strength, focus, and mana sensitivity. But for Rayon, the moment he started using it, something miraculous happened. The psychological chains in his mind actually cracked. For the very first time in his entire life, he had his own independent thoughts.
The brainwashing is broken. He has free will. He finally has hope. But that hope lasted about as long as a snowflake in a furnace. Seriously, exactly 15 seconds. King Darius calls him out under the moonlight, compliments his recent work, tells him he's ready to lead the Shadows, and then just casually snaps his fingers. Instantly, a secondary caller activates. Darius had planted a literal parasite worm deep inside Rayon's heart, designed to eat him from the inside out whenever the king wanted him gone.
And Darius? He just smiles chillingly as Rayon falls to the ground. He calmly explains that brainwashing alone is never enough, saying every hunting dog wears 2 collars. It's brutal. Even as his heart was being chewed apart, Rayon actually managed to land one single scratch on the Sword Saint before his head was taken right off. Which brings us to Section 4, the burden of reincarnation, a cursed new life. As he was dying, Ron outright refused to let some mysterious system possess his soul. And the next thing he knew, he was opening his eyes as a newborn baby in the wealthy Zagart family. He kept every single memory, every combat instinct, and all his knowledge of the Ring of Fire. But this new life came with a massive disadvantage. He was reborn with a deadly frost curse. 9 of the mana pads in his little body are entirely blocked by freezing ice energy, leaving him frail, sick, and doomed to die young.
So how does he survive? He literally spends his toddler years acting like a sick child while enduring agonizing, freezing pain day in and day out. In the dead of night, he secretly practices the Ring of Fire breathing technique in bed just to keep the ice from stopping his heart. And all the while, the mind of the continent's absolute greatest assassin is slowly, patiently plotting his ultimate revenge against King Darius. It's just an incredible juxtaposition, isn't it? To his family and to those snobby prodigies at the academy, he is a frail, dying outcast who can barely walk without getting winded. But internally, he possesses the unbreakable, battle-hardened will of a man who lived his whole life in the shadows, survived intense brainwashing, and literally fought through a parasite eating his heart.
And that sets up perfectly for Section 5, Forged by Pure Willpower, returning to the test. Let's bring this narrative full circle, right back to that Archmage's test at the academy. Remember the specific rule of the test? If the trainees used their mana, even for a single second, they failed. The instructor's crushing aura was designed specifically to test pure spirit and pure willpower. It was meant to expose the kids who relied entirely on their magical talent, but had absolutely zero real mental fortitude.
And folks, this is exactly why Rayon passed without even breaking a sweat. A heavy magical aura in a classroom? That is absolutely nothing compared to his daily reality. This is a guy who fights off a freezing curse every single time he takes a breath. He survived decades of mind-erasing brainwashing in the dark. He stared down the legendary Sword Saint while a parasite chewed up his heart. For Rayon, the instructor's immense pressure wasn't some grueling test. It was literally just a Tuesday. You see, true strength isn't always flashy magic or loud applause. Sometimes it's forged entirely in the dark, totally out of sight of the critics. Rayon has the golden flame of the founder, the sharp mind of a master assassin, and a willpower that literally breaks magic. The outcast has officially arrived. The only question left now is, how far will this hidden badass rise? And what on earth is King Darius going to do when he finally realizes his greatest weapon has returned? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes peeled for our next deep dive.